The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio. From hot dogs to cool kitties, this is Darkside of the Pooch.
Welcome back to another edition of Darkside the Pooch. It's Tony Kurre along with Dr. Reb Stewart, the Rossbridge Animal Hospital, and of course, always brought to you by Ed's Pet World, 879-1331. Exotic pets, you name it, they've got it. They've got everything from sugar gliders to chinchillas. They got baby rabbits. They got Cayman crocodiles. They got fish. They got everything. Check out Ed's Pet World, in business now for 50 years, right down there in beautiful Homewood. You've been to Ed's Pet World, haven't you, Dr. Reb?
Like 1,000 times.
Yeah, I know, man. Don't you love that place? Also, don't forget about Seth's Toy Closet. He's got this toy thing going on. It's about 50-50 now. The toys are overtaking the pets. He's also got his own store right there in Homewood. Check out Seth's Toy Closet. Proud sponsors of Darkside of the Pooch. And, of course, you can also now watch us on your favorite Tony Kurre Radio YouTube channel. What's going on at the Rossbridge Animal Hospital, by the way? Anything exciting news happening since the last time we spoke?
I mean, nothing new. Same old stuff. I'm very, I've got a face for radio. It's like I told you when we started today, man. This is a whole new world for me.
It is. It's good. And we wanted to give everyone an opportunity. If you're listening to this on the TKR app, we greatly appreciate you, but you can now watch the show on our YouTube channel on Tony Kurre Radio. That's Kurre. And of course, continue to send your emails, info@tonykurreradio.net, info@tonykurreradio.net. So no special, procedures or any operations or anything fun that's happened at the Rossbridge Animal Hospital?
No, I did not work Saturday because it's my girls. I got a now 8-year-old, and I'm about to have a 5-year-old girl. But the girls had their birthday party on Saturday. Okay. So one had Saturday, one had Sunday. So I was kind of away from the office. I didn't work this weekend.
Okay, good.
I think they had some exciting stuff going on, but unfortunately, I don't know what it is.
It's a good weekend to start, too, with college football underway.
Man, what a wild weekend.
That was crazy. Let's get right into it here. Joe in Lincoln, Nebraska, info@tonykurreradio.net. Ask Dr. Rab, do dogs really like watching football?
Mine doesn't. Mine could not care less about it. You want to see my dog? Can I turn this thing around?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Let me see if I can turn this thing around. I don't. Here we go.
Turn around.
There's the Renzo boy. Can you guys see him? You see Renzo?
Hey, buddy, what's up?
Renzo. Oh, look. Hey, he's chilling.
Renzo's got his own YouTube channel. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think it's interesting. We used to have a dog, a scruffy dog. Whenever we had too many people over at the house, it would get a little, it'd get a little iffy. It'd get a little sketchy because he gets really excited. And then when everyone would cheer and everything, he would start barking and he'd start pooping all over the living room floor. It would just come out of his butt. It would just come shooting out whenever he got really. So whenever there was going to be a touchdown, someone had to grab paper towels. I mean, it would go on like 3 or 4 times a day. But whenever he get excited, but I think he liked watching football. But I mean, he wasn't one of those guys that just sits on the corner of the couch and watches. He has to get into it a little bit.
Yeah, I think that happens to some older people. Yeah. They get so excited over the football. They get so excited and they got to change their pants.
He is Dr. Reb Stewart, Rossbridge Animal Hospital, the rossbridgevet.com. That's their website. Of course, Rossbridge Vet on Twitter as well as Facebook. Check it out in your email questions. We got a bunch of them here. Randy in Wetumpka wants to know, we kind of went through this last week. How can I ask my guest in a nice way that come over to my house to watch football games not to feed my Pooch? He said, I've asked them repeatedly, don't feed my dog anything. There's always one guy that always feels like he's got to feed the dog because he wants us to be the best friend. You know what I mean? But he's like, I'm tired of having my friends over and they keep feeding my dog and I don't feed my dog scraps. And I can tell because after they leave, he comes panting towards me. How can you go about that? What's the proper way to tell your guest not to feed your dog when they come over?
We had an interesting discussion about this with one of my clients last week. It was a little bit different. But she had a rescue dog that was great with her, but a couple of other family members kept wanting to touch the dog and play with the dog, and the dog didn't want them to. So it's kind of the opposite of that. So what I tell people is just blame it on me, blame it on the veterinarian. The last time you guys came over, you gave my dog a bunch of food, it got diarrhea, it threw up a bunch, and it ended up costing me, $300-400, whatever, insert dollar figure wherever. And so if you guys are going to feed my dog, y'all just need to go ahead and leave me a few $100 so I can take care of the vet.
Well, that's good. That's really good.
Blame me, man.
I like that. And you've also mentioned in previous shows, you could say your dog's on some type of medication. We don't want people lying, but I mean, hey, listen, you got to, if they're going to feed your pet, you don't want them to, tell them your dog's on a special, and tell them as soon as they walk in the door, hey, listen, Fritos, man, is on this special diet, and if he eats, he's going to get really sick, or it could even kill him. Or tell him he's got fleas. Tell him he's got heartworm. Tell him he's having some issues, and do whatever.
Tell him he has pancreatitis.
Yeah.
Pancreatitis. And if my dog eats something wild, anything off of the special diet, it's gonna get sick.
True. He is Dr. Reb Stewart, Rossbridge Animal Hospital. I'm Tony Curry. An update. Did you hear about this lost dog? We talked about the woman who lost the dog. She was traveling from the Dominican Republic to Atlanta. Remember? They found the dog. It was in the cargo hold, and it's been there for 3 weeks. It was alive and well. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So when you hear this story, you're right away thinking Delta. What's wrong with Delta? So let's back it up a little bit and get the true story. So evidently, the woman was flying from the Dominican Republic to Atlanta. She got on the plane, but she had a problem with a visa because her visa was fake. So the dog made the trip, but she did not. So when we first did this story, oh my gosh, they lost her dog and it's horrible. And how horrible is Delta? So she tried to get on the plane with a fake visa. Her dog got on with the right visa, evidently. And so the dog flew, it landed, and there was no one there to pick it up. And that's why it got lost. And they looked for it. They decided to let it go. They heard some whimpering, and then they ended up finding it in the cargo hold of the airplane 3 weeks later. I don't know how a dog lives 3 weeks in the cargo hold of an airplane, but he did.
Well, there's no way it was in the plane, because that plane's it's just gonna keep flying. Did they not put it in the airport somewhere?
It's got 1 million frequent flyer miles now. That dog is unbelievable. Yeah, evidently it was in the cargo hold. So I don't know if maybe someone was feeding it. Maybe it turned out to be a Delta mascot. I don't know, but the dog is fine, and she's going to get her dog back. So there you go. Trudy in Fall Creek, Tennessee. It's the first time we've got one. We're leaving our Pekingese for 4 days for the first time. She crates very, very well, and we're not too worried about her, but we're wondering about pet sitting. She said, should I have a neighbor come over twice a day, feed it, walk it, make sure it's okay, and leave? Or should I have that pet sitter actually stay at the house to make sure my dog doesn't get anxious? And she wants to know, what should she pay her pet sitter for each of those instances? That's a great question. I've left town before for like 2 or 3 days. I don't like anyone to watch my dogs for like a week because I think it's just too much to ask. And because they do need to go out at least twice a day. They need to be fed a day, which means they need to be fed. You need to wait for them to eat, and then you need to take them out. And sometimes they know that we're not there, so they don't want to come back in the house. And it's a huge ask. But I never know what to give somebody. Most times you have neighbors that are nice enough to do it for free, but I do like to offer something. But what should you pay a pet sitter if they're just coming over twice a day, and as opposed to actually staying at the house?
I'll give you what the going rate is where my brother-in-law lives in Nashville.
Okay.
Because he does this when he goes on vacation with his kids every summer. He does this. So he's got kind of a friend. He's got a neighbor, and they do it for $200 a week.
Okay.
So
that's if they stay at the house.
No. That's just if they come twice a day.
Oh wow.
If they come twice a day. So, I feel like that's pretty reasonable if they're coming twice a day. But if the pet could say what they wanted to do, they would probably prefer somebody be there, throughout the night, just a normal routine day, like you would have if you were at home. But that's going to be a lot more expensive. I would think that if you're also house sitting and you're maybe letting the people eat your food, or, it's kind of almost like a hotel and I'm taking care of your pet while I'm there. I think maybe $50 a day would be pretty reasonable.
Okay. If you're lucky enough to have a loser friend that doesn't have a place to live, that's the
right.
That's the guy you want.
Hey, hire a homeless person. Hire you a homeless person. There you go. They'll do it just for the week of the roof over their head, but they might move out all of your stuff.
Yeah.
During that week.
So you say $200 a week, and that sounds like a lot, but let's be honest. If you're boarding your pet, it's going to cost a hell of a lot more than $200 to board your animal.
It will. Right? It will. There's a little bit of a fluctuation, but most places you're going to pay probably between 25 and 35, maybe even upwards of 60 or 70 if they have these luxury suites with the camera on them, where you can look at them 24/7. So depending on where you stay, you could spend a lot more. But the benefit to being at a veterinary practice, and I'll be the first one to tell you, not all dogs can handle boarding. They get stressed, they get upset, they don't eat, they don't drink, they get vomiting and diarrhea, they
Really?
get bored. Oh yeah, they get bored, and so they lick on their feet or their belly, and they can create some dermatitis. So not all dogs are good boarders. So if you have a dog like that, then it's definitely best for them to stay at home. But for these dogs that they don't have those kind of emotional problems, being in a veterinary practice has its benefits because if something were to happen, you've got a veterinary staff there that's prepared to handle pretty much whatever could happen to the pet.
Can you answer this question? How long can a dog hold it?
Oh,
See,
I mean,
so we kennel our smaller dog, and I make sure that he doesn't eat and drink right before I put him in the kennel. I make sure he goes out first. But I mean, if he is in the kennel for 10, 11 hours, and yes, it's happened. There have been times where I've gotten caught up and I've been gone all day and I just couldn't get home, and he does go out quite a bit when I let him go. But how long can a dog hold it before he'll just let it rip?
I mean, I think 12 hours is a pretty reasonable amount of time, and they could probably hold it for longer, but they're going to get pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I usually tell people 12 hours, they should be able to handle that, no problem. Because if you really think about it, a healthy dog is going to make it through the night without having to go to the bathroom.
Sure.
And, for a lot of people, that's going to be 8 or 10 hours.
Yeah.
So, what's another 2-3 hours? I think 12 hours is pretty reasonable.
Unlike me, who has to get up every 2 hours. I cannot,
I'm getting there, man.
I hear you. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. He's Dr. Rab Stewart, Rossbridge Animal Hospital. They do wonderful work. 208-0301, 208-0301. Always brought to you by Ed's Pet World down there in beautiful Homewood, in business now for 50 years. Great exotic pets and Seth's Pet Closet. Check it out. It's fantastic. Tabitha in Birmingham wants Dr. Rab to talk about heartworms. She wants to know what they look like, what exactly are they, how they form, and how to keep your dogs from getting them.
Heartworms are spread by mosquitoes. The larvae live in
mosquitoes are just
the mouth
nasty.
Parts. Man, they carry all kind of terrible stuff.
They're just nasty. Yeah, go ahead.
So the larvae live in the mouth parts of the mosquito. So when the mosquito bites the dog, the larvae are basically injected like you would inject a vaccine or a medication or whatever. I mean, the mosquito's mouth is just a very small needle. So the microscopic larvae they get into the bloodstream, and then they travel to the heart where they stop. They grow into adults. As they're migrating from the skin to the heart, they grow. They're changing those larval stages as they go.
Okay.
So they get to the heart, where eventually you'll have male and female worms. And
back it up a little bit. Does a mosquito get infected with the larva in order for the larva to get inside the mosquito? Does the mosquito pick the larva up from somewhere else?
That's a great question, Tony, and I do not know the answer to that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they naturally live there or if they are more like an intermediate host.
Yeah.
It could be an intermediate host situation where they pick up the larva from other infected animals, and then off they go. But for me, the heartworm life cycle starts in the mosquito or in the dog, and then it's just passed from dog to dog through mosquitoes. Those mosquitoes are kind of the intermediate host.
Okay.
So then you have male and female heartworms in the heart, and they're going to do their thing and reproduce and make babies.
Yeah.
And they're all just going to, they're going to live in the heart. They're going to cause a lot of issues with turbulent blood flow and valvular issues and issues with the musculature of the heart. Eventually, it will lead to heart failure. It can lead. Usually, it's right heart failure, but they can make the entire heart fail. They're going to develop respiratory issues. They could develop a thromboembolism, which will a lot of times just cause them to die very quickly. They can be prevented with monthly heartworm prevention.
Yes.
Either ivermectin or moxidectin products. It's a very, very palatable way to do it. There's also injections you can give that can last up to 6 to 12 months that will prevent heartworms. Treating heartworms can be done, but it's a little more difficult. The medication that kills heartworms when they're inside the body can be kind of hard on them, make them feel kind of crappy. It's an intramuscular injection. It's kind of painful. For dogs that don't have advanced heartworm disease, when you give them those treatments, they're usually going to be fine. But as those worms die, the worms themselves can form an embolism, and so it can cause problems in the lungs and can cause dogs to die. Have instant death basically. So it's a lot easier to prevent than treat.
And they're tasty little treats, by the way, too. My dogs love their little Brevecto thingamajobbers. They look like little pieces of beef. They love them. All right. Yeah, you don't want to mess with heartworms. That's one of those things where a lot of people think, what are the chances, right? And then whenever you say, what are the chances, it more likely is going to happen to you.
And we probably treat 2 a year, but there's some parts of the country, parts of the state that, maybe they don't give as much preventative as they should.
Yeah.
And they're treating a case a week.
Is it contagious? I mean, if one of your dogs has heartworm, can the other one get it if it sniffs the poop or whatever?
No, it's not contagious in that sense. Okay. But if you have a heartworm positive dog and you have multiple dogs, if a mosquito comes and bites the heartworm positive dog and flies over and bites your other dog, then that's how it's contagious. So it's not contagious from dog to dog. It doesn't pass that way. It's got to pass through the mosquito. But if that mosquito, if it bites your dog and it doesn't have the larva in its mouth, but then after it bites the infected dog, it does have the larva in its mouth, flies over to the other dog, it's going to infect it.
That's one of the questions I'm going to ask my good Lord Jesus when I get up there. Why did you create mosquitoes and fire ants? I don't get it. I know they're good for something, but we don't have anteaters down here in Birmingham. We got issues with that too. Ramey in Gulf Shores got a great question. This is a really, really long email. It sounds like he needs a marriage counselor, by the way. Ramey, get some help. Evidently he's got a Doberman. His wife doesn't like the Doberman. He got it all fired up a couple weekends ago. It got all excited and it took a snap at one of his children, his 11-year-old daughter, and it broke the skin. The wife wants to get rid of the dog. And he's like, it was just a scratch. It wasn't a bite. It was just, she bled a little bit on the back of the leg. She went to school the next day. Well, all was good. He goes, is there an issue with my dog? He said he's never had an issue with his dog biting anyone. It's 4 years old.
I just think that when you have an incident like this, if you don't take some kind of action, you're asking for trouble.
Okay. What kind of action are you talking about?
I mean, first of all, figuring out what happened. A lot of times the dog is totally fine, and I don't know the age of the kid, but sometimes kids are curious. If
she's 11. She was 11.
Okay, so with that age, I would just want to be sure. Hey, look, were you looking in the dog's ear, or were you poking the dog, or were you doing anything other than just either walking around the house or petting it or whatever?
Yeah.
And then if the answer is I wasn't doing anything except for walking past the dog, whatever, then I mean, I think you could have a problem.
Okay.
A dog that bites a person totally unprovoked, that's a scary situation, especially a kid. So if it was an unprovoked bite, then I think that you've got to start talking about some type of behavior modification. Let's figure out what caused the bite if we can. Either use medication or use a professional trainer to be sure that this doesn't happen again.
All right. RossBridgeVet.com. I always want to say .org, but it's .com, RossBridgeVet.com, at RossBridgeVet, of course, on Twitter as well as Facebook. You can find them and ask them questions. And of course, we love to take your questions. We do the show every single week, Darkside of the Pooch. It runs 5 days a week on the TKR app and now on the brand new Tony Kurre Radio YouTube channel. So check that out. You can actually watch us or hear us. And of course, it airs 5 days a week on the TKR app, so you get it live. Daniel in Montgomery said recently my dog's breath has just absolutely stunk. And he's worried about his dog's breath. He said, our dog's gums the same as human gums, and that when we have bad gums, we have bad health. And what can I do to get rid of my dog's stink?
Good questions.
That's interesting because normally I don't get close enough to my dogs to realize their breath stinks. But occasionally, if you're laying there in bed and one jumps up and it yawns right in your face, you're going to get a face full of blah. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, or they're hot. They're sitting beside you on the couch. They start panting. You're trying to watch the game. So anyway, first of all, we have to set our expectations. Dogs are going to have bad breath because they don't brush their teeth. And, we brush our teeth twice a day. And if even in between those brushings, we have bad breath. We just do. So we have to take care of it. Dogs are not going to do that. So dogs are naturally going to have bad breath. What you want to be sure is that they don't have advanced tartar buildup and they don't have gingivitis or periodontal disease. And that's going to take all you have to do is look in your dog's mouth. And if you see a bunch of brown stuff on their teeth or you see a red gum line, that's dental disease.
Okay.
And if you get that taken care of, their breath is going to be better for a certain period of time, but then it's going to get bad again. Dogs can also get some GI issues. So we're talking further down the GI tract, past the mouth. Sometimes they can have bacteria in their gut that can make them, have some bad breath. They can also have metabolic issues that can make them have bad breath, especially kidney disease. So if you have an older dog or cat and they're just not doing well and have really bad breath, sometimes that can be something way more severe. And dental diseases, that's not something that you want to go unchecked. But when they have what's called uremic breath, and there's no way I can really describe that with words. It's just something you have to smell. When you smell it one time, you know it. You know it. So there's some of these pets come in and they're very low body weight. They're not eating, they're not drinking, they're lethargic, they're not doing well. We do an oral exam on them and they breathe right in your face and you can smell that uremic breath, and that's kidney disease. So the best thing to do is just have the pet checked out. Just be sure that it's just routine, probably dental disease, and then either have the teeth cleaned, and then once the teeth are cleaned and that bacteria is out of the mouth, then you can do some at-home care. People talk to me all the time about brushing my dog or cat's teeth. It's not going to go well. You can try. If you get a new puppy or a new kitten, and you want to try to train them to do that, that's great. Maybe it'll work out.
What about these dental bones? They keep talking about these dental bones they're self-cleaning. Those work?
Well, some of them do.
Yeah.
If there's anybody out there that wants to have a good list of medications or preventative measures, there's a website, vohc.org, Veterinary Oral Health Council.
Okay.
And all of those things on that website are independently tested by a third party, and they are proven to improve dental health by 15%. So it's not anybody. It's not a company trying to sell you something. It's not a veterinarian trying to sell you something. It's people that have tested these products, experts that have tested these products, and they're shown to improve by 15%.
And having your dog's teeth cleaned normally is a normal thing, not maybe every 6 months like human beings normally do. But dental hygiene is important to your Pooch, right?
It is. It's usually once a year. There are some pets that need it more often. There's some pets that have serious dental issues. They build up tartar really fast, or they've broken their teeth, and now the pulp cavity is exposed, and that root's going to die. It's going to get infected. So, things are always. I think the one thing that I get people to kind of like laugh at more than anything is when I tell them that their dog's teeth need to be cleaned. But can you imagine if if my grandmother were still alive, and I told her, me, mama, I clean dogs' teeth. That's what I do.
Yeah.
That's part of my living. She would look at me like, people do that?
Yeah.
Like, people really do it. But they do. And it's because medicine advances. I don't know how many hundreds of years ago, but people didn't used to brush their teeth either.
And let's be honest, it's amazing that dogs' breath smells as good as it does, considering where they put their mouth. It really is impressive. If your dog's breath stinks, he's probably pretty healthy. Noel in Birmingham, this is a great question here, and I can't read it verbatim because this is a family show. But he said he's a light sleeper, and he said every single night he'll just finally get to sleep, and he hears, and he's like, "Stop already!" He wants to know, how can he get his dog to stop licking itself?
Well, you got to be sure there's not a medical reason for it first, because dogs will lick, their feet or their any area if it's itchy. So be sure that there's not an infection somewhere, and be sure the dog's not missing any hair.
And it could be something where your dog is. It could be something where your dog is licking himself during the day, and you're just not noticing it because there's too much going on, and you're laying in sleep, and it's really dark and it's quiet, and that's the only thing you hear.
Right. So look for any signs of skin disease like hair loss, or red skin, or any kind of scabbing or scaling or crusting or things that look like zits on us. If that's happening, then you need to have them seen. Right. If it's not happening and there's no signs of skin disease or anything like that, then I don't know. Maybe either get some type of behavior modification collar where you can hit a button, or maybe just gently tug on a leash, or make the dog sleep in another room.
It is amazing how long they will do it until you finally tell them to knock it off. I mean, and the old saying, "That dog will bite you." I couldn't say that. I wouldn't do the same thing if I possibly could. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. This is Darkside the Pooch. Check it out. RossBridgeVet.com. RossBridgeVet.com is our website. 208-0301. 208-0301. They're right there in Rossbridge. It's one of the finest veterinarian hospitals you'll ever find. It's unbelievable. Final question. Chrissy in Dothan said she was recently told about a dog boutique that gives dog massages. She's like, she thinks that's ridiculous, and she wants to know, is there any medical benefit to rubbing out your pooch?
I like the way she phrased that. That's good. I mean, yes and no. For certain types of musculoskeletal issues, some like range of motion exercises can be really helpful. Now that's not really a massage, but it's more of putting a limb through ranges of motion. That's more joint work, but they can kind of be one and the same. As far as like a traditional massage for a dog or a cat, there's probably not a whole lot of reason for it. So, I can see where she's coming from there.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to get $65 an hour to give your dog a belly rub and you're willing to pay for it, your dog's getting a massage.
If your dog's name is Deshaun Watson, it needs lots of massages.
Yeah, and I'm not rubbing that part of the dog. I got news for you. That ain't going to happen, man. That ain't going to happen at all. All right, Dr. Rabb Stewart, Rossbridge Animal Hospital. Tell people how they can find you. You do wonderful work.
Oh, you can find us. You can email us, rossbridgeanimalhospital@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can call us at 208-0301. We'd love to see you. Next week, I will have a much better video setup.
Nice. I want some pictures behind you. No, you did good holding that phone the entire time. That's very impressive.
I'm on my phone. I got a leak in my roof. I had to come home, meet the roofing guys. Next week we'll have some fish posters.
Good. I want to hear a good. I want to see the guitar next week, and I also want to hear a good, juicy vet story.
All right. Deal.
Got you, brother. I'll talk to you next week.
All right, see you, man.
Hey, man. This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.